Welcome to Ladies of Another View on Beck, or as Trent Luce likes to say, ladies and a dude. We do have a dude today. Today I'm joined by Emily and Jan, and we have North Dakota Ag Commissioner Doug Goehring. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have
I'm
you.
so glad that you were able. I know you're a busy guy, and this was the 4th of July weekend, but did you have any fun?
Well, not much.
Not much.
Hey, the weather was wonderful.
It was
It
perfect.
was so great to get some rain.
It was great. The farmers needed. Did you guys do anything fun for the 4th?
Yeah, I spent my 4th at the Mandan Rodeo, actually, and then did a little art in the park, and that's about it. Just kind of took it in slow.
Excellent.
What about you?
I was in Minnesota with family, so family's always a good thing to do when you have a little extra time.
Right. It was just so great seeing all the freedom lovers out there this week, and it just seemed like, I think people should wear their patriotic gear every day. I really do, just as a friendly reminder that, hey, these stars and stripes actually mean something. So anyway, but Doug, you just got back from a big trip, didn't you?
Yeah, I was in London post-Brexit. We've been working on trying to get some things put together with them since Brexit happened to make sure that we have a trade partner in place. They're finding it a bit awkward trying to make that transition away from the European Union while still having ties because they're so close. How do we actually establish a relationship and then understand too that trade works both ways, but they are a food insecure country to some degree on some stuff. So where can we find inroads? How can we develop relationships? We met with the Minister of Trade to talk about some sanitary issues, some of the tariffs, non-tariff trade barriers that might be in place. Our job is not to go there and sell products. Quite frankly, we're not brokers. My colleagues and I, we are generally the regulatory entity, or we're the ones trying to, battle through all the barriers and hurdles that exist, and then trying to negotiate those things with other government entities. So the Minister of Trade, the Minister of, I forget, Commerce, I believe it was. We had a lot of conversations there, met with embassy officials, Foreign Ag Service, worked with them. They actually set everything up and they did a great job, and did attend with Deputy Secretary Jewel Bronow. So that was good to be in some meetings there. We had a chance to visit and catch up on some of our expectations out of this. But North Dakota's in a very unique position, best suited as any state would be in the United States, probably besides California because of the multiple things they have. But we produce 54 different commodities commercially in the United States. And we're #1 in about a dozen of those. So we have a lot of products that the rest of the world needs. And some of those things are staples in other people's diets, whether you're talking about wheat, whether you're talking about durum for pasta, you're looking at dry bean and pea production, chickpeas, lentils. Those are staples in other people's diets. And when you're #1 in the production of them, guess what? They need to know that, and it gives us an opportunity to make some headway, develop some relationships, build bridges, and hopefully do business.
Well, you forgot to mention the sweet corn in Morton County.
Oh, yes, and the sweet corn in Morton County. It generally doesn't go into the trade routes very well, but it does make its way.
It disappears before that.
I was going to say,
It goes too fast.
It makes it around the area and is well supported, but yes. And then we're in Chicago. I was in Chicago and just got back from there a couple days ago. They're working a lot of policy for the Midwest and for our state regional trade groups, which we handle or work with the Northeast and the Midwest on those issues.
so have things changed with your relationships with like the other countries and stuff post-COVID?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that, everybody, not everybody, that's probably an exaggeration, but
feels
most,
like it.
yeah, most, they became paralyzed in fear. They didn't want to do anything. They were scared. My old microbiology background, 35 years ago, all these diseases were out here, and I was like, what are you guys getting so shook up for? There's all this stuff out here already. But I think to the public and to the consuming public who have never really been exposed to any of this, this is something new. And there were so many that had said, oh no, it's been around for a long time. A lot of these things have, not just COVID or coronavirus. But with so many countries going into lockdown, it hurt their economies, it hurt commerce, it really ended up causing more problems with food security in their countries. Made it far worse and exaggerated the situation. Supply chain issues certainly compelled them to look in different areas and try to be more self-sufficient. But again, most of the countries need protein, and protein is in short supply around the world, always has been. A lot of countries can produce starches and grains, but there was a big need in the last 5-6 months where they just came out and said, that's it, we can't deal with this anymore, we need to have trade. The virtual trade that was going on was great to be introduced to buyers and countries and different people, but I think it goes back to, yeah, you can do things virtually, but can you eat virtually? Can you spend your paycheck virtually? Can you offer services virtually? To some degree, but not really. And they were tired of it.
Yeah.
So a lot of countries, and that's why Foreign Ag Service stepped up and said, hey, they're ready. And we have a lot of trade missions on the docket this year. In fact, I had 11 of them planned for this year. I've canceled a few of them. Some of them I'm going to have to go just because there's an expectation for me to be there and reconnect with some of our old customers and old friends in government. But then also there's some new countries out there that we haven't had a chance to actually meet with. And they want to know who North Dakota is, and they want to know how we do business. And for the most part, I'll tell you, the rest of the world views our commodities as being not just high quality, but also there's integrity that goes along with the transaction. There's trust. And they like the fact that the United States operates under the rule of law, because in a lot of countries they don't. Now they've become a little fearful in the last year or so. When they saw all the protests and they saw that mayors and governors weren't dealing with those things in their own country, in their own states and cities, they started to think that the rule of law was going away in the United States.
Sure.
Because they thought, at what point do you protect your people? Do you protect your systems that are in place, that you protect the framework? And some had a lot of questions about that.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View with a dude today. Dude is North Dakota Ag Commissioner Doug Goehring, and a good friend. I really appreciate that. You know, whenever you call up to the Capitol, he will give you an answer, and I really respect that. We've become friends over the last 20, 30 years. And so I just want the viewers to know that everyone's accessible up there. You just have to make the connection and make the phone calls and ask the questions. But why don't you quickly, just real briefly, tell us what an Ag Commissioner's duties are? Like, what do you do for the state?
Well, every state's different. North Dakota is certainly probably the most unique and has the most powerful commissioner in the United States. Agriculture.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
No, that's just to put it in context.
Yes.
The forefathers of our state constitution did some amazing things when they established the Constitution and some of those duties and responsibilities. So agriculture is about 40% of my portfolio. You have the Industrial Commission, which those powers were split then in North Dakota, so that you have the governor, the attorney general, and the agriculture commissioner that serve over 16 different agencies, and that's the State Mill and Elevator, that's Oil and Gas, Department of Mineral Resources, it's Housing Finance Agency, the Public Finance Authority, which is all bonding for the state, You also have, did I say the Bank of North Dakota?
No,
you have the
thank
Bank of North
goodness
Dakota.
you did. Now I know who to call.
Yeah.
Still the only one in the nation, right? State Bank?
Yes.
State-owned.
No, I don't think it'll ever, I don't think one could actually get started in another state. To start a bank at this time with the backing of your state, because our bank is actually backed by the state of North Dakota. So many states already being in the hole or having debt, I don't know how they'd be able to do that, you know. But it's kind of interesting. My other duties are water, on the Water Commission, State Board of Equalization for classification and taxes on land. Not that we do those taxes, those are all locally derived. Also have business development, trade. I got 100 boards, commissions, councils, and
And is it an
committees.
elected position now?
It is an
or- right?
elected position. It's a constitutional office versus statutory. So you'd actually have to change the Constitution to get rid of me, I guess. Well, you can get rid of me at the end of any campaign
Election
season.
cycle.
Yeah, that election cycle. But in that respect, there are a lot of duties, responsibilities that go with it. I love it. You can make out of the job anything you want. Anybody can. I've always been compelled to just do everything that was there plus some. So over the years, the legislature, by statute, has moved more programs into the department, and we operate with the idea of assistance, compliance, and just service in general to the public. I mean, that's why we're here. Government serves no other role than to serve people. That doesn't mean you always get what you want, and you don't get to always believe what you believe. Take a civics class, understand the law, rules, regulations, and policy and statute, and that'll give you the good framework for how we're supposed to govern. I think from time to time people say, well, don't you have a vision for the office? Yeah, to serve people the best you can. I have a century code sits on my bookshelf behind me. That tells me what I'm going to do. How I do it is up to me. And my staff is wonderful. Our department is great. We know what we're supposed to do. It's how we deliver on that. And that's really what our job is supposed to be. Engage, connect, communicate, and just work with the public on their questions and answers. Because in our department alone, we got another 140 programs, besides my other duties and responsibilities. So I have great people there that oversee the office, a lot of different divisions, and do our best to help.
Yeah.
So in addition to helping large farming operations market their properties, or excuse me, their commodities for the state, you also have something that's a little bit more localized called Pride of Dakota, of which I'm a part, so I understand, and so is Beck. But can you explain what that is to our viewers?
So back in 1985, I believe it was Commissioner Jones at that time, decided that they wanted to take and help these small businesses in North Dakota do something more, to get the exposure, raise the awareness about who they are and what they do. So they started the program. When I came into the department, there was 323 companies, I believe, were part of our membership. Now we're almost 600.
It's crazy.
And our job is to help companies evolve to the place where they want to be, which is some just want to stay local, some just want to do this off and on, some are seasonal. Others, no, they want to take it a step further. We've had companies like Fresh Cab.
Yes,
Anybody knows of that?
exactly.
Yes, yep.
Use the product.
Sun Butter. That was another one of Red River Commodities. There's so many. Oh, Dots Pretzels.
Yeah, there you go.
Those are not only nationwide, I believe they're on the North American continent even.
Wow.
So another one of our companies. So we provide some business development and training and structure. We help with plans, budgets. To whatever degree people need some assistance, and they can take their company to the level they wish to.
Right. They're not pushed to
No.
do something they don't want to. And I know that a lot of surrounding states do not have that opportunity, so we're kind of unique in that way.
We're unique. There's others that are trying to copy our program, which is fine. That's great. I'm to the point now where I really see this great testament that North Dakota values common sense and the people bring to the table. I mean, nationwide, 5 of our programs have left this state, been adopted or utilized in other states and at the national level, but so have some of our more minor programs been picked up by states here and there who are trying to utilize it and do some things. And great. What a testament to us.
No doubt.
They just, like I've had conversations with some of them, if it's not working, visit with us. We'll tell you why. We've already lived through it. It's like raising children. You know what?
Yeah.
We've already failed, which means we're a little more successful. So why don't you just listen to us? We bring experience, judgment, and some wisdom to the table.
Been there, done that.
That's right. That's right.
So, you know, we've talked a lot about, like, North Dakota is a big deal as far as agriculture goes. So does that make us a threat then to these outside entities, to China? Like, how do you see that, or where do you see that going?
I don't know if we become such a threat as much as people try, or entities, others, try to figure out how do you develop a relationship, how do you connect with us. North Dakota has been this hidden little treasure that no one's knew about. Until the Bakken really exploded and it brought more people in, all of a sudden people went, whoa, you got this, you have that. When I was doing international marketing 16 years ago, it was a situation where I was traveling abroad and I would see dry beans, for example. We'd be talking and all of a sudden they come up about, well, we get commodities like dry beans from Arizona. And I'd say, Arizona? And they'd show me the bag. It was packaged in Arizona.
Sure.
So in these other countries, they thought they were getting it from Arizona. I said, we raise 37% of all of the nation's dry beans in North Dakota. There's a chance that at least a third of those beans in there came from North Dakota.
Right.
But the reality is there's so many different processors. I thought it was great when I became Ag Commissioner to say, let's step up our efforts and see, with the 60 food export companies we have, is there an opportunity to get them some exposure in the market, cut out a middleman, deal directly with us, and then let's beef up our infrastructure, our supply chain, and our intermodal systems so that we can be more connected to the world, have a bigger footprint.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Back. We're visiting with North Dakota Ag Commissioner Doug Goehring. Doug, I do want to thank you again just for coming to the show, because I know your time is so precious. But Jan dipped a little bit into the Fufeng issue. Actually, you brought it up. Now that I think about it, I think you did.
It went in the conversation.
Well, since we're there, let's dive in. You know, you said that you also oversee the Industrial Commission, but also land. So there's so many things going on with this, whether this land was sold and became commercial so that they could buy it, and then just with China being that close to an Air Force base, did your organization, were you guys notified, or they're pointing fingers at the Industrial Commission. They're pointing fingers, you know, like nobody knows who approved it, but they're all saying that it was approved. What say you?
Well, first of all, we were contacted to say, is this legal? And actually, there's some things that have been misrepresented in the whole thing. You have issues with first foreign ownership of land.
Right.
That's
Let's start there then.
Okay, so when you look in the state of North Dakota, and every state has not every state, but a lot of the Midwest states have laws in place as to foreign ownership. If you're from a foreign country, you can only own so much land. In North Dakota, I think it's 150 or 160 acres. For some reason, 150 sticks in my mind, of ag land, agriculture land. Mm-hmm. Commercial property and residential property is totally different. But people got kind of worked up over that. So
but Grand Forks, that was ag land, and then they sold it and rezoned it to commercial so that Fufeng, right?
Yep. But
knowing
that's
full well
done all the time.
But that seems like skirting the law just to get your way. That doesn't seem
But everybody, all
ethical
land,
or anything.
So all land is agriculture in the United States.
Right.
Think about when we were founded.
Exactly.
So all of it's purchased as ag land, then you have to reclassify it. So it goes before the county commissioners or the zoning board. It has to be reclassified because foreign ownership of ag land is not acceptable. Or if it's under a corporate structure is not allowed either. That's unlawful. So you just have to change, like the Bill Gates thing. There was some question as to whether that was a corporation, that trust, or how it was structured. Well, even if it was, it wouldn't matter because you go and do a little paperwork and you turn it over to private. That's just how it works. But the issue there was then, is it lawful? Well, I worked with a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and I'll do a deep dive, but I'll try to keep it very high level. So there's nothing illegal about what they're proposing and building a facility. And in fact, conversations within the FBI and those that are watching, because as we've stated already, Department of Defense would have to be the ones to raise their hand and say, nope, can't have them there. So I got challenged with this question. Yeah, we have big questions about all the universities in the United States and in North Dakota who bring students from other countries, and some countries that aren't necessarily very friendly to the United States. Mm-hmm. Those are more likely, as they've pointed out, to be your spies than building bricks and mortar. Their point that I got challenged with was, when you have a bricks and mortar type of facility, they watch their P's and Q's, because if they break the law, the United States of America, or whatever that governing body is in that state, they get to seize control of the bricks and mortar. Countries and entities get very sensitive to that. So they had said it's least likely that you would see a facility, a manufacturing facility, or a value-added facility ever do anything along the lines of being unethical. Doesn't mean you wouldn't have people, but they said that happens all the time. And people just pay the dues, go to jail for a little while, then they go back to their country. Countries don't seem to care about the espionage aspect there, but they generally don't like to have it working through their bricks and mortar facilities because they know they could actually lose that. Well, that gives you a little peace of mind, but the public is still worked up over the deal. We have tried inviting other corporations to North Dakota to build value-added facilities. And I think the problem with American corporations is, and international corporations, they want a guarantee. They're so risk-adverse anymore. They don't want to take any chances. They want guarantees on what profits are going to make. And so farmers are torn over this because a lot of them have said, you know, it's about time someone wants to invest in our backyard and we would have this facility. Why is everybody getting so upset? Well, they're getting so upset because of who it is. It's
well, and it's so
China.
close to the Air Force Base too. So it's
but so is our aviation program. This is what was pointed out to me. We have a commercial aviation program out of UND with Chinese students, Middle Eastern students, and this is where I was challenged by people within some government agencies that kind of laughed and said, you guys are hypocrites. It's more likely you have something going on there, but they already have satellites where they can fly over and take pictures of the Air Force Base, so they already know it's there. So this would have to be someone infiltrating from the inside in. But I think at the level and the dimension that we all work within, we think about things at, you know, at this superficial level, which is, here's a facility and here's another one, so there's something diabolical going on, or could. They said, there's already diabolical things going on all over the United States. They've already worked on that. We don't have a reason as a government to say no to it. Do we have concerns? We have concerns with anybody coming to our country, but they said this one is actually minor in many respects. So I don't know. I just try to deal with the facts. I try to dig in. I try to find out where do we have a place to stand. How can I still support our farming and ranching community, still support value added, because we profess it all the time. We want it, and then people shake their finger at me and say, yeah, now you got it, now you're trying to get rid of it.
But you also you said that you also deal with the Water Commission, correct? Or
correct, yeah.
Waters of the state. So the city of Grand Forks has concerns about water supply and where they're going to get the water from, and that, you know, the citizens the residents are restricted. So this plant supposedly is going to take as much as the whole city. And
actually, it's going to be bringing more in. That was part of what the Water Commission dealt with.
In what way? I mean, is this part of Garrison diversion, or how does this work?
So the water plant that's actually in Grand Forks that the Water Commission, we put extra funds in there about 10 years ago for the water treatment plant. So there are different water projects. The main thing is the infrastructure isn't there. It's not that the water isn't, it's the infrastructure. So there are different infrastructure projects that are going on. Just like with gas, natural gas. Sure. We need natural gas in there. There's some different things that have been working on behind the scenes that I can't talk a lot about, but sure. Because you have to have water, you have to have energy, transmission, you have to have all that in place for business to succeed or to actually develop. So those are things that over the years we've continued to help, I won't say sponsor, but certainly support. It's not our job to do it, but it is our place to actually help and assist when they want to do something. And as long as it's legal and they bring it forward, you can't deny something that's legal. Whether you even like it or dislike it, you know, it's not our job to play favorites either. And when they do that, that's when you have politicians. And that's when I lose my cool. Because quit playing politics, quit making decisions based on what you want.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Back. We've been visiting with Doug Goehring, and he has decided to stick around for another segment because we just can't fit it all into one show. But why don't we kind of pick up where we left off? We were kind of talking about the Fufeng deal. We went through the land issues. We kind of talked about water, kind of talked a little bit about gas. There was a natural gas pipeline coming over that way, and then that was stalled. Now where's that at?
So there's some particulars being worked out there, and there's actually more projects than just this. This Fufeng thing is small compared to a potential fertilizer project, plus a blue ammonia project, which would be for energy and has the possibility of supporting fertilizer production. There's a lot of things in the Grand Forks area that could really help not just the community, the state, industry in general. There's some things happening in the Fargo, Grand Forks area that both of them and throughout the valley would really help with a lot of value added. Plus we have some major projects and some good projects going on across the state too. So North Dakota is just starting to find its way. It's starting to blossom a little bit. It'll support certainly more employment, definitely more economic activity, but more support for the agricultural products that are produced in this state, and you know, get utilized not only in a regional market, national market, but also a global market too.
But getting back to Fufeng, just to put our viewers' minds at ease, I understand that there's something called a CFIUS review, and so if there is something that is big and dark and can't be done, our government is or is not looking into it right now. Do you know if they're looking at it?
So the federal government is very well aware, and that's why it's kind of sitting in their lap. If there's something that's wrong, something that can't be done, they'll certainly intervene. But right now they're just We haven't heard anything.
Okay.
So does that mean that if they're standing down, so to speak, that, you know, they're just letting all the locals deal and make the decisions? Or do they give some kind of final report?
They probably would not give a report. It's kind of one of these deals that only when you're in the wrong are we going to say something. We're going to let you know. The local issue, I guess, comes down to, I mean, if it's something is legal and lawful, as many questions I've had about this, I don't know what you can do to stop anything. I mean, whether you like something or agree with something, we still live in the United States of America, and under that framework in a republic, you know, as long as nothing is illegal, it's lawful. You can do it. Now, I will tell you, as a piggyback onto that, there is a lot of ownership from foreign countries in the United States. The UK, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Canada. Canada owns quite a bit of land in the United States.
Wow, didn't know that.
There is a bill being sponsored by Dan Newhouse, who used to be the Director of Agriculture out of the state of Washington. My colleague, I worked with him for a while before he went on to become a congressman. And Dan is introducing a bill that would hinder or bar any more ownership of land in the United States by China. It's very specific. Now, when you go down that road, it makes it a little bit tougher because you're being very specific, which means you're going to have to cite some pretty good reasons. But if that bill does come through, then that means going forward, that would bar or ban ownership of foreign investment or purchase of land in the United States. Doesn't mean you probably couldn't come in and buy an existing facility, but I think there's some little nuances to it.
When you say that, you know, Canada owns land, the UK owns land, are you talking like the Canadian government? Like, who actually owns that land?
Well, there's people that own it.
Okay.
But I think that's,
so just like more like individuals or, you know, okay.
Now, they own businesses and as corporations, they come in and buy and build things too. So it depends if you're talking about buying land or you're talking about owning a manufacturing facility. There are businesses in Canada that own quite a few businesses in the United States.
That seems to be their workaround, is to buy something that already exists and then make it theirs. Then they're the owner of the business, the land, and that type of thing.
So it's little quirks, and it just depends on how you look at it. The one thing that brings probably more comfort, and this came from an insider, is, as I stated earlier, when you have bricks and mortar and you have something that's regulated, anybody becomes very sensitive about ever doing anything illegal because it can immediately be confiscated and taken over. I mean, one thing about any facility in the state of North Dakota that's operating under a grain or livestock license or bond is in my department. So if you aren't minding your P's and Q's, we'll audit you, we'll regulate you, and if we find there's a problem, then there'll be consequences accordingly.
I guess I find it so surprising that China is such, their industrial world is so dirty and filthy and polluted. They even had to stop all the factories before the Olympics just to clear up the air for several months before they let people go over there so it didn't look so bad. But we're allowing those corporations to come in here and go ahead, and if they don't follow regulations back there, what makes us think that they're going to follow regulations here?
Oh, they do. When you're in another country, just like if you're not allowed to smoke in Italy, it doesn't matter what you can do back home. It's when you're in Italy, you can't do something. You have to follow the rules and regulations of the state and the nation that you're in. So they don't get around that. You can't get around it.
So how about slave labor? Let's talk about that. We only have a few minutes left, and I worry about that.
In other countries?
Yes, well,
that's
like
a consumer.
China, but with China, because parts of the plants, they're saying that there can't be any slave labor attached to any component. It doesn't even matter if it's a little rubber washer. there can't be slave labor. How can we prove that?
Well, I'm not sure, but if you have a corn facility here that's making lysine, they're going to have to employ people here.
Right.
That product will leave. But as for what's going on in another country, what I would tell American people, and I'm not defending China by no means, understand this. Just remember that it's a logical conversation that you have to have and you have to defend. So the reality is that what I challenge the consumer with all the time, quit buying at all these big box stores foreign products.
Yeah.
You know, instead of...
We're doing it to ourselves.
Instead of shaking your finger at your next door neighbor and everybody else, no, just, if you have a problem with that, quit buying Nikes. Quit buying shirts and other products that come from some countries where you know there's slave labor, whether you can prove it or not. But if you know that there is, that you've heard the reports, not that they came from some activist group. I would be very cautious of any activist group out there, and you see them advertise on TV, make claims, but it's unfounded, or it's one snapshot, and then they make a narrative to go with it. Mm-hmm. But there are things that governments have found out, and we know. Just quit doing business there. Start to support your local business. Start to support those companies in North America and in the United States. And
that are left.
That are left, yeah, because no one wants to do it.
There.
Yeah, they've either, for tax reasons, have moved over there for tax shelters, or we've regulated them to death here. I mean, Europe has regulated their businesses to death. 4 fertilizer facilities shut down this year. They came out into the global market to compete against us to buy more fertilizer, when it's like if you'd stop regulating them to death, you would have your own product in your own country. But we haven't learned that here either. We come up with rules and propose rules like Waters of the U.S., which is a government overtake, like 30-30. You just want to do more to control more of those assets that are privately owned.
All right, so Doug, we have 1 minute to give you. What do you want to leave our viewers with? You can quickly go over 30 by 30 and dispel anything. Just tell us what's going on. Just your final thoughts.
Oh, don't be so quick to trust government. Let us prove ourselves to all of you. I have never been one that cared for politicians all my life, and then I became one. But there are good people out there. But there are people that are challenged with the circumstances they're in, and sometimes they don't do a good job governing or making decisions. Test, evaluate. Whether it's an agency, a department, people in general, don't be so quick to trust everything you're being told. Sometimes people that are telling them something aren't in a better position. I mean, I watched during COVID, and I'm concerned about this country, federal agencies, and even some state agencies, and some of my colleagues have talked about some of their issues. But please get engaged and support local businesses. Just, you know what, love your neighbor too, because we don't have enough of that anymore. It's so divisive anymore, and a lot of that comes from favoritism. And if I could leave you with one thought, think about this, because I was asked and challenged with this, how can we change this country and how divisive it is? Quit playing favorites. If you have children and you favor one child, you'll create resentment in the rest. Just treat everybody the same. There's accountability, there's consequences, there's transparency. You put all that on the table, and you'll start to eliminate a lot of the issues that are out here.